Okay, so it was suggested that I make a tutorial for how I make my animations. And I'm not really great at making tutorials, but I'll give it my best shot. So to begin with, we open up Blender, and if you don't have Blender, it's pretty easy to download. You can just go to blender.org and then follow all the steps that they have there. So then once you're in Blender, you should see this little window. If this is your first time opening Blender, it can have like preferences and things like that, but for me it just has previous projects. So to close out of it, I can just click over on the side, and then first we can import our model, which for me I like to use Sketchfab to import the models. Specifically I like to use Tiku. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he has tons of Brawl Stars models that are pre-rigged, so that's really nice. But to get ready to import the model, we can go ahead and delete the cube that's automatically there, and we can go over to File, Import, and FBX will usually be the format. Wherever you then had saved the model that you downloaded, as you can see I have many. We can open it, the source, and usually I like to scale it down just so it's a little easier to manage, get it positioned correctly as well. And so as you can see right now it has no color, so we can go over to the color preview. Sometimes it will load in automatically and sometimes it will not. So one thing you can do, if it doesn't, make sure you select one of the models. You can click this little down arrow, and so if it was like purple automatically, you could just go over to the textures, select the down arrow, and then select the texture that it's supposed to be, and it should work. And these are the armatures of the bone structure. So in order to see them better, you can go over to the armature, the viewport display, and then make them in front. But as you can see, they're a little bulky, so I like to change it to stick, so it makes it to where you can see the actual model better, but actually still being able to see the armatures. So then when it comes to actually animating, you can just select the rig, change it from object mode to pose mode, and then you see if you select an individual bone, and you can rotate, move, things like that. And this down here, this is the timeline, which is very key to making animations. So you see if you click I, it brings up the keyframes. I usually like to do location, rotation, and scale, just to kind of cover most of the bases. So then if I move the slider over and then rotate the arm again, click I and insert another, then you can see that Blender automatically fills in all the keyframes, which makes it nice and smooth. And that's pretty much the basics of animating. Other than that, it just takes a lot of practice to figure out ways to making it look realistic, how the body would move. So then to actually render your animation, you can go back to object mode, go to this little rendering page, and you can see that it has all of the resolution, the FPS, which I usually like to keep on at 24, the actual length of the animation. So like since we only did ours that's 25 frames long, you can change the end frame to 25 so it doesn't have all the extra frames that we don't need. And we can also see that the animation loops after we do this. Then we also have like our output, so you can do it onto your desktop or wherever you want the animation to go. Usually I like to do RGB because it's a little simpler, but all these things you just become more familiar with the more you explore them. And so then to actually render it, you can do render image or render animation, and it will actually be rendered through this camera over here. And if you want to view through the camera, you can right click on it and then you can look through to where the camera is looking, and then you can just move around with the scroll wheel to exit this view. And that is pretty much the basics of how I make my animations. Of course it just takes time and practice, but with those things it becomes easier and you can become more familiar.